Let's get this thing started, Scott. Good morning there in Texas. How you doing? Just waking
Good
up,
morning.
huh? I know the feeling.
Yeah.
I'm Christopher Field Marshal Vandenberg, and I am with.
I'm Scott Juarez, and I'm with Crucible Custom Props, and he's with Blaster Factory. And here we are. We're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about Boba Fett blasters.
Yes. And the
Webley flare guns. Oh, this thing's heavy.
Yeah. The EE-3.
Yep. And that's a real one, and this is a real one.
Yes.
They're fairly rare. Well, you wouldn't think so, as much as they pop up on the RPF and stuff like that for sale, and the dented helmet, but they're pretty hard to come by. They're 100 years old. They didn't make a whole lot of them. I mean, they made a few. What serial number is that one? Mine's 20,891.
This sucker right here is. I almost can't read it. It's so.
Mine's from 1917. I've seen 15, 16, and 17. So
this is a 15 here.
Yeah. So they made it at least 3 years.
And this one, which I got this from a member on the dented helmet, and this was in a lot better shape. This one is the one, if you were following me on RPF and dented helmet, vanished when I went and got it scanned. This is the actual one I scanned to do the replica. It got mislaid there at the laboratory and found it, which, you know, it's always nice to find a $4,000 prop somewhere. But this one here is in really nice shape. And I bought a second one from a guy off of the dented helmet. This is a 15 too.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And
what's cool about this one, Scott, you know about this one.
Yeah, Jeremy Bullock signed that. That's cool.
Yeah. So
I met him in the early 90s or the mid 90s. And at one of the conventions, you know, when I first, you know, started getting back into figures and stuff. And he was super nice. Yeah. He was really, really nice.
Wish I'd have got to see some of those guys. A lot of them have passed, and you know, I haven't been building props as long as you have, so I missed out on a good bit of that stuff. So
yeah,
I rely on you to tell me these things. So
I wasn't doing the collecting and prop stuff back then, but I was, you know, I've been in Star Wars since I was can I remember? So, you know, like most kids.
Yeah.
Back then, but yeah, he was very chatty and very cool.
Yeah, I know, kind of a weird thing. I was thinking the other night, it's like, man, how long has it been? It's like, I think I was in 3rd grade when I saw, you know, I'm old, you know, but I was in 3rd grade when the first one came out. And I remember all the toys, you know, they had this big gaudy tube lightsaber.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Everybody brought them to school. It was crazy. You know, you can't do that nowadays, but
no,
you know, everybody brought their lightsaber they got that weekend or whatever. It's really neat. So, oh, hey, we need to plug this so we don't get in trouble too.
Oh yeah, I have a different one. I have Halawax's. I have Danny's shirt on.
Nice.
I wore that one a couple days ago, and it's in the laundry.
Yeah, I promised him I would. You know, this is one of the. This is on Facebook. So make sure if you haven't, you know, joined that group, you know, go to these guys. There's a ton of really great information. A lot of good members there. So, and go buy a T-shirt.
Yeah, you know, the T-shirts, I think it got pulled because of copyright.
This T-shirt did?
Yeah, I think so. Wow. Because of the word Star Wars, but I'm not sure if there's a workaround or if they can still be sold or what. But
yeah,
but
that's a shame.
At least go on the group.
Yeah, at least you'll go to the group, definitely.
Yeah, and also follow Danny Halawax. He has a special passion for the lightsabers that he just super detailed builds as well.
Is he like a custom builder? Is he kind of like what you do on the blasters and things?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's out of Oh my God, I can't remember. Maryland?
Well, maybe if he watches this, he'll message me and I can meet up with him, see what he does too.
Yeah, he's cool. He's real nice. But he lives way the hell up where it's cold all the time. And I keep telling him he needs to move someplace else.
Well, you tell him I want to move where it's cold. I'm in South Carolina and basically in Greenville, South Carolina. You're in Texas. It's hotter than 9 layers of hell here right now. It's awful.
Well, I lived in North Carolina for a year, and it had all the extremes. It had hot in summer.
Yep.
And then in winter, I was at the bus stop when it was like, 12 inches of snow. I was like, what's happening here?
Yeah,
In
well,
Texas, it
I'm
shuts
in the
down.
foothills and the mountains here, so it's the
Yeah.
same thing. I can tolerate anything, but when it gets this hot and this humid, it's miserable. It really
Yeah.
is. So, oh, you know what? We keep mentioning this even in the last video, but Dented Helmet, it's a forum. You go online, the Dented Helmet and the RPF, and that's Art Andrews, right?
Yes, he owns them both.
Yeah. So I mean, when you're on Facebook, you miss a lot of really, really good information. I mean,
Well,
I know just my threads on there, the build site is just massive, but there's hundreds of other people that have been discovering all this stuff for decades, and all that info and pictures and really good stuff's on those sites. You won't get that on Facebook.
The problem with the Facebook groups is you have a lot of overnight experts who just read something someplace or somebody else posted it on Facebook and they didn't bother to fact check it, and then they just regurgitate it, and then it becomes like a pseudo fact, and then everybody thinks that that's the truth.
Yeah.
Without ever doing any research. And the RPF and the Dented Helmet are pretty good sources where people who actually know what they're talking about will correct things or interject or show evidence and things like that. And Facebook just seems to be like I heard this, and that becomes the gospel,
Or either somebody
know it or not.
Or somebody printed some 3D printed. I'm going to get hate mail for saying this, but somebody prints some really freaking awful prop, sprays it really horrible, and everybody oohs and ahs about it. It's not screen accurate, and that's what we do here. We're trying to be true to the original art form.
Right.
If you need a $10 prop, there's plenty of those at the toy store. Or
well, I mean, there's something to be said for not everybody has the budget to make something like out of metal.
True.
And there is I think it's really cool when people craft their own. They do from whatever means they can make the prop as accurate as possible.
See, scratch builds are different. Somebody evolving their talent through scratch builds or whatever, that's different than somebody going online and getting somebody's print file and printing and that's it. There's no challenge to that, I don't think. I know. Send the hate mail to chris@warmachineinc.com. I said it out loud, but that's just, I don't know, that's kind of a cheater way of doing it, for not that good of results. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Oh no,
there's no research involved. And the fun part about doing these props, especially in the original series, is all of the greeblies and these fun little things that everybody's discovered. It's like props of Star Wars. The RPF, white armor. I didn't mention whitearmor.net. If you're doing the E11s and a lot of the stormtrooper stuff, my God, that site's like the Dented Helmet or the RPF. Massive amount of information there to find real parts, to actually to try to recreate the original parts, which that's hard to do, by the way. I'm not saying that's easy. Collecting stuff is hard.
One of the best resources is the parts of Star Wars, either their website, which is kind of old, and also their Facebook group, because they've identified a lot of this stuff, and they're still identifying stuff. It's pretty amazing. I don't know how Chris find that stuff sometimes. It's just
thank you, Chris, by the way. He has sent me vintage parts that I've been able to scan and use on stuff like on the Mirson and things like that. Man, that guy is got a lot of really cool vintage things he's collected over the years and a lot of knowledge. And he puts all that up on the site. So if you haven't gone there and you're building props, you're missing out. You're missing out on a lot of fun, a lot of good information too.
Yeah. Both the Chris's, wealth of information and stuff.
Yeah.
They've been doing this. I think they're the kings of the original parts stuff that they've just been able to find so much of it. And if they haven't found it personally, I don't know. Like they discovered this stupid, this Webley, the safety switch. I don't know how.
Hey, Scott, you sent me these.
Yeah.
I bought these from you.
Yeah. I used to look for that. I didn't, you don't know what you're looking for, but you just look for stuff on eBay. I would just troll and look at pictures of things.
Yeah,
all the time.
I don't know how the heck somebody run across this, because literally that was inside of this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, good gosh. Aim my camera down a little bit. But somebody had to find this old switch and figure out that this stupid thing was mounted in there.
Not only that, is they're riveted together, so the identifying features are not seen.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I got this one too. This must be a later version. It's not.
Yeah, they made a whole bunch of different ones. I had one that was like a big rectangle. I don't know where it is. It's a rectangle and it has like a big red freaking switch on it. Do I still have that?
In case
I chucked it.
He didn't give you a close-up of it. Now, thank you very much, Scott. This is like one of my most treasured things, to actually see one of my metal replicas. And my God, I can't even show the real detail of this thing because it won't come.
I know it's hard to photograph.
Yeah, it's very hard.
But putting it next to this one, the real one, I think I got the paint pretty much like the patina of this steel, which is, when you look at the color photos of the Boba Fett one on set, it was pretty kind of rusted and old patinaed. It wasn't wasn't in great shape.
And the Webley we're talking about is on the stock right here.
Yep.
You see this piece here?
Yep. And the reason it's oriented that way on that side is because there's only one picture where you can see the top of it and you can see that little cut.
Yep.
That's how I could tell which way it was oriented.
And then next, you got these two guys here, which another crazy prop for somebody to find.
Yeah.
It's almost like a. Please don't fall over. Okay, here we go. And those guys were
the plugs. Yep.
And these plugs, they hinge, so I'm not going to pull this one apart because it's the vintage one, but they spread apart and make that
yeah, they just
thing.
open up, and the two metal prongs go through this middle part right there, and then that's where the plugs are. Yeah, and mine had the prongs when I got them.
Yeah, and it's one of these guys. Luckily, some of my German buddies, again, I keep mentioning that, European friends, they tend to find these things, because we, obviously we wouldn't have these in the U.S. or for their voltages over there. So
yeah, I still have that plug thing too, that box that you got there. I still have that someplace.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I always, like with every prop, I always stress, I do everything I can to get the real stuff to laser, to scan it or copy it, so that I'm giving my customers the closest thing you can do.
Well, since we're talking about this Empire Strikes Back, whatchamacallit, the blaster.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen if I can find it. Where is it? Ah, here we are. All right. So this is basically the prop. This is all we see. These are some behind the scenes photos of it. These are like the best photos of it.
Yeah.
There's not much. There's not much in detail, to be honest. Here's a photo. This is a pretty cool picture of, look, you can see right here. There's a Webley. This is during World War I. There's a Webley sitting here, and there's another one right there. And then there's like 3 of them sitting there.
Wow. Where'd you get that picture?
I don't remember. But it's a cool picture. I mean, look at those Vickers and everything, and
Yeah, definitely.
or are those Brownings? I don't know. I don't know my World War I machine guns very well, but
Water cooled machine gun. Yeah.
I mean, look at just the parts just laying around. It's a cool picture. And then you see these 3 Webleys. Maybe yours is one of them. Maybe mine is one of them. Who knows?
That'd be interesting. Well, you can tell these things they were actually used.
Yeah,
they were used.
here's a pretty good shot of the stock Greeblies.
Mm-hmm.
Open it up so we'll get a closer look. There we go. That's about as good as it gets.
Yeah. I love those scope clamps. That's not a bad angle on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or can't see the Molex plugs on there. Can't always see them. I guess.
Well, one of them is broken off.
Yeah.
You can see here, but you can tell that the color of this clamp thing is gray or white.
Yeah.
And they were obviously just glued.
Like
That
everything.
That must have been a pain in the butt prop to have if stuff was popping off all the time.
No kidding. And you know what, Jeremy? I mean, just sitting here at the table, how much does this thing weigh? I mean, it's like this is like holding 2 rifles.
Yeah,
It's a solid chunk of steel.
I don't know. I could weigh it, but I'd have to leave the room to do it. But
No, this thing it's pretty heavy. And if you've ever been on a set when they're making movies or TV shows, these actors usually stand around for hours. So
yeah.
I'm sure he built up some arm muscles for that one.
That's just a back shot of a different blaster and everything. But anyway,
Wow.
this is like the best picture of this blaster. Let me go look at the last couple here. So here's that picture I was telling you about, where I can see the orientation of that that one Greebley. That's the only picture I've ever seen of that side.
Yeah.
And you can see the cut in it right there. So that's how that's.
Man, it's a good shot of Vader's chest box too.
Yeah, and this is the best one of this blaster. It's a pretty good picture.
That is.
But what's interesting here is in this pre-production or promo shot, this safety switch Greebley is turned like the one on the other side.
Right.
And then you got your mystery disc and your Conrad there.
Yep.
And you can see the gray, you can see the kind of grayish looking color of the pool clamp or whatever.
Well,
What we call a pool clamp.
Everybody calls it a pool clamp. I don't think they were. I think these were conduit clamps. And from these pictures you'd sent me a long time ago, nobody's ever found these parts, found some stuff like it, but it's dead reckoning. I mean, this is just screenshot, scaling to make these. I actually had to make this in 3 parts. There's the clamp part, there's a center round part, and then this piece here on the top of it.
Yeah.
It was not a real simple thing to do. A lot of machining to it.
Yes.
And I will tell you too, you're talking about these Molex connectors falling off. You gave me a really great idea when I was making these, because you would put little magnets on them. Well, I took the little
Yeah, I
dial.
remember we were talking about that, and I was saying that why don't we put pins in it? That would be, then they wouldn't move.
That's all you, because I figured out, the placement. Now there's there's some for the large one and for the small. They're different. But if you get these from me, they'll come pre-drilled, and man, when you glue those on, you're not going to knock those off walking around.
Oh
Those things
yeah,
are
I
tough.
didn't even glue mine on and they don't come off.
Yeah, they're tough.
But let's go back to this. I want to show you something maybe you haven't seen before. Check this picture out.
Oh, wow.
So it's before
Look at that. Yeah, the
movie.
Greebley, yeah, the Greeblies are in the wrong spots on the
So this is
stock.
when he had the helmet without the dent, with the eyes on the top.
Wow.
And then, yeah, the Greebley. Look at the plugs. Well, actually, there's a plug, and I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They didn't make it to filming because he probably knocked them off that day.
Yeah.
They're gone, so they had to redo them.
But check out the tube is not an MPP.
Nope.
Well, or maybe it is, and they just painted it silver. Who knows? But this is just flat black.
Get my phone to quit ringing here.
So I wonder if they had more than one prop. Or maybe this was a resin cast. Maybe they already had the resin casts by then. Hard to say.
That stock looks real though.
Yeah, who knows? We'll never know, probably, but the scope is different too. Well, it's not different, it's just oriented backwards.
Yeah.
From what it is in Empire Strikes Back. This is more like the Return of the Jedi way.
Yep.
But anyway, I just thought that was, some other people may not have seen that.
I don't think, yeah, that'd be a rare photo. I think that's the first time I've seen that one. You don't share enough, Scott. You're selfish.
Oh yeah, I'm selfish. You know, it's funny, when I did share, I would put my watermark on stuff, and I can still tell when people use my photos because I almost altered all of them before I shared them. I would either do shadows and highlights, or up-res them, or sharpen, or do something. And I would also hide watermarks in them too. And then lo and behold, I would see them reposted with the watermark cropped out or even photoshopped out. And so when that started happening, I just said, forget it, you know, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah. Well,
it's irritating because I have to pay for some of these. I pay for them. I pay money to get them, or trade, or barter, or cultivate relationships to make that happen. And then all of a sudden, you know, someone just takes it.
Yeah, I know the feeling. That's the way I feel about some of the 3D printer guys out there that have never seen the real replica, don't own the real scopes, or, you know, on anything. Even the last thing, you know, we were doing with the DL44, you know, there's guys out there 3D printing the hell out of stuff that have never had the real stuff. Only thing they've had is, you know, they've copied other people's copies.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of sad. I think you definitely shouldn't put your, you know, you definitely just shouldn't tell people screen accuracy when you've done that. You know, you haven't done your homework.
Well, that's another discussion. That's a whole other video.
Yeah, and you know what I'm talking about too.
Yeah, but for this, yeah, I mean, well, I have your well, I have a couple here because I'm doing a Return of the Jedi one, and I just painted that, and I need to finish weathering it. This one will be for Roman. So
that's why I left the screen just a minute ago. We need to mention him because, you know, he has been a contributing partner in getting this prop going, because, you know, he does the MPP tubes.
Yeah.
So,
and this is the Webley Kit, which, you know, I think a lot of people I had some feedback before about people wondering if it was going to be too light in aluminum. Now, aluminum's light. That's true. It is light. It's lighter than the real one, but man, it's still hefty. It's still chunky.
Well, you still like your, you know, yeah, it's still there.
You don't want to steal one of these, man, because it's heavy.
Well, see, Scott just lied to you because he does want me to make steel ones. That would be really difficult. You know,
let me rephrase that. You don't want to steal one if you're going to be costuming with it.
No. It would be great if we were bluing them and doing stuff. I know it's just that these parts would be
So expensive.
really expensive to do it.
Yeah. But yeah, but these, I mean, they're, I think this thing is really impressive. The brass grip.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't tried it, but I would assume this would fit directly onto a real one if you needed it.
You know what? It will, but I have noticed on the two that I have, they vary a little bit. And what'll happen is getting that fit right here.
Yeah, because they were all hand fit.
They are hand fitted, and so it would fit it. You just might have to file it or sand it or something. But speaking of that grip, I had to have these. I went through several processes to try to copy these things. This is one that was. See if you can see the detail of that. Oh, that's not bad. Hope y'all can see that. The knurling.
Yeah.
Because even scanning this, it's not easy to machine that detail into a mold.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you've been to, like I said, go to the sites and see the threads. Scott, I'm going to try to share. Yeah, I haven't ever shared because I'm not used to this Zoom thing, but I'm going to see if I can share this this picture of the first one I did when I cast them. If I can find it here.
Let me ask you a question. So yours, this is good because it's modular and you can make 2 different versions out of it.
Right.
How is the original one assembled? Because it's either machined as one solid piece.
It is machined as one solid piece, from what I can tell. That was one solid piece. I mean, I've said this, like when we were talking about the Mauser, or you look at the Luger, like in the Jenner. So any of these old firearms and things that were made, they're incredibly hard to machine. And these guys were having to do this stuff, with hand tools, hand machines. I don't know how I would have done that in one piece. Bored out that. I mean, this is crazy, what they've done.
Big hunk of steel.
Yeah. See that?
And then bore it out. Yeah.
You see how the ejector right here?
Yeah.
I mean, all of these T slots and broached out grooves. And see, with the aluminum one, I got to cheat a lot of that stuff because this thing doesn't actually have to put a shell in it and fire it. So, but I did copy, and you've seen this too. I did make it to where you've got that little guy there that goes back and forth.
Yeah.
But, obviously I did a bore that if you do find some old vintage shelf or some old tear gas thing or flare or whatever, it won't fit. So that's but back to the grip. I hope I can find this picture for you guys. The first one that come off of the mold, it didn't work real well. And of course I can't find it right now. Oh, there it is. Let's see here. Okay. Well, Scott, I'm failing miserably at this. So I'll work on it for a second, just finding the picture. So
the screen share is in the bottom of the middle. It should be green.
Share screen.
Yeah. And then it'll show you a little pop-up of which one you want to share.
Yeah. Okay, here is there we go. This is the mold of it. And here's some of the original ones off of the, let me close that again. Here we go. There's so many pictures to sift through. Why did that not pop up here? Well, how about that? Did that work?
Yeah, I see your
the whole screen. Yeah, for some reason it won't let me pull out the individuals, but you know, you can see some of the workings here when we were, you see the mold halves, that was
Yeah.
the prototype mold halves. And this one worked okay. I ended up with some warped grips at first. I was getting kind of worried because if I couldn't have these cast in real brass, there was no purpose in doing this project. And I was about halfway through the machining before we figured out how to get them to come out right and to have the detail on those diamond knurls. Let me see here. Okay, how do we stop sharing here?
Should be at the top. I think it says stop sharing screen.
There we go. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, the old guy learning how to use Zoom meeting here. So, but yeah, those grips were really important, and you know, that part right there. Well, I was talking about fitting. When you get these in the kit, you know, if it doesn't slide up there and, you know, there's a little gap, and, you know, you can make it as tight or as loose as you want. I've got two, they're both ways, but you may need to sand or dress this part of it right there to make sure it does what you want it to do.
That's what I had to do for the first couple, but the last couple kits have come with them already assembled. I guess you did it.
I do, and then sometimes I've noticed that some of the builders at different levels, they may have trouble, you know, doing some of that kind of stuff. I mean, you literally can do it with a regular file if you needed to dress it a little bit. But if I got time, I try to put the trigger mechanism together too for people, because it's a little tricky too. So if I have time,
the first couple I kept having to watch your video and go and doing it, but now I can just do it without any instruction.
Well, I tell you, I would love to take this apart and pull the trigger pieces out to show everybody what was inside there. And I'm never doing that to myself again, because there is a wishbone spring in there that pushes the trigger forward, and there's a swivel on the back of the hammer that pulls it back. I mean, it's even in their handguns, you know. It is so hard to get back in there right. I literally had both of these apart when we talked about doing this meeting, you know, a few weeks ago. I said, I got to put these back together, you know, because I haven't had them really together for since, you know, doing the replica and scanning and all that. So I need to get them back together. Oh my God, I spent 2 days messing with it. You know, they're incredible. Whoever had to assemble these back in the day, you know, salute. Pain.
Yeah, the spring is hard on the hammer for the real one is really, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's a strong pull. I was wondering about that. Why is it so damn hard? Did it need to be for to hit? Were those primers super hard back then, or what?
I think they made stuff back then to pretty much last forever. So whatever springs they put in there, they were made never to fail, ever. And they also meant probably never to have to take it apart too. Trying to find this other. Even
the double action of it is pretty stiff.
Oh, here it is. Now, see, I cheated a little bit to make the mechanism. Everybody wants the mechanism to work. And, you know, there again, while I was doing this project, I knew I needed to make the hammer come back and catch, which you've seen that. You don't have to make up trigger mechanisms for just about everything we've done so far without being like real firearms.
Yep.
But this one was tricky. And you've got, you know, these pieces right here, and it basically catches right here. And when you pull it back, you know, and then it fires. But also there's a double acting piece right here too, so you can keep, you know, so it's double action. Yep. And I actually was able to reproduce that, thank God, because the tolerance right here, and you've run across one of these too, where this little tip right here, man, if you don't get that in there straight and it's not polished or anything's off, this doesn't work, you know. Yep. And it's tough.
Yeah,
I've had the wishbone spring used to be right here on the real one, and I replaced it with by putting a regular spring, so that it'd be a lot easier to put together for you guys, so you can actually do it.
Yeah, and I had one where like you said, the tolerance was off on it, the part, and it would lock up. It would
Yeah.
and you had to take it apart to get it to unlock. But
Yeah,
this one, all the others have been dead reliable.
That's awesome. That little point right there, when it comes off the machine, it's sharp and burred, and somebody has to hit it on the deburring wheel just perfectly to you don't want it razor sharp, but it still needs to be pointed enough. So
yeah,
a little bit either way, it doesn't work. So
it's a very satisfying click, when it locks into place.
Yeah. Now I didn't on the real hammer. It's got a little protrusion right here. I'll show you, and that's for hitting that's for when it hits the primer or whatever on the shell. But there was no purpose in doing that. There's not a hole there. There's not a firing pin. That way, somebody can't run across the shell and try to shoot tear gas somewhere, or
they just blow themselves up. Man, that thing wouldn't hold that pressure.
Oh, that would not be good. Definitely. So, we're talking about the Greeblies too. I don't know if we might have skipped over that little guy right here. And I don't know if you can see on my back shelf, because you've helped me find a couple of those V8 engine kits. How many props did they steal parts out of that old model kit and put on?
A lot. Most of the props have something from that thing.
Yeah. Well, there's actually, I think I might be wrong, but I think there's two.
Yeah.
That ended up on these. This little guy.
It's on the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it's on one of the Greeblies from it, but it's out of that engine kit.
Yep. It's here. And I have a real one right here.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's interesting though is the real Boba Fett blaster and your replica has an A, B, and C on the little, I call it a skull piece because it looks like a.
Yeah, I do too.
Anyway, it has an A, B, and C on it, right? Your replica has that.
Yeah.
But my real one does not.
Now see, this one does, and I've got 2 or 3 of these, and some of them don't. But the one I scanned did. So you can't tell if it's on there in his anyway,
No. But we only know because we have really good pictures of one of the hero props. But but that V8 kit's on everything. I just wish we knew what the other thing was, the little disc.
Yeah. And I was looking for, here we go. Guys, I also, this is, it's kind of weird. It's always backwards, the real one's plastic out of a model kit and everybody wanted a metal one. But, one good thing about this little, can you see that? Does that come out?
It's not in focus, but we can see it.
Okay.
The crazy thing is the little bolts that you made for it. Man, the little brass bolts.
There is a company, and I forget the name of them. They make train parts for the guys that build these little steam trains. Yeah. I mean, the train, there's people that are in the trains like they are in Star Wars, but those things are micro bolts. And I was lucky because I couldn't machine these little bolts that are in the top of the real one. I couldn't do it. There's no way there's no tool small enough for that. So what I did was I drilled holes through here, and basically these bolts drop in there and glue in place. So after you paint this thing, it should look just 1-to-1, with the real one. So
it does.
And plus, if you've got it on the side of it, you're carrying it around, you can break this. You're not going to break this. So.
Right. For sure.
What's that other? There's one more Greebly too. Oh, there's a couple of going back to the switch thing, or I mean the plugs or whatever.
Yeah,
that's a really good 3D printed one I did from the scannings, and it even has all the little places you could actually fold this over. So, and this one, nobody's found this one. This is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know that one too. Yeah, that and the disc that the on the Empire Strikes Back that the Conrad sticks to.
Yeah, yeah, that's got those back here somewhere. I tried to bring my whole, this is the like the build shelf when they pull the orders. I've rolled it in here because I figured I need to find parts somewhere. Oh, this thing.
Yeah, no clue what that is.
And man, this is like my best guess and measurements from you and others who, you know, just trying to just dead reckoning of scaling from pictures, you know. So
Yeah,
it's really
it's all
cool.
we can do, you know.
And
Mine
this,
on
and
my
this
real
thing,
one, I have it held on by magnets.
okay, that's what I was going to ask you because you know where it glues on is it glues on in a goofy spot, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of a silly spot. It just
Yeah, it's,
on the replicas, I use this is the adhesive I use for the replicas. It's Permatex Ultra Black Gasket Maker oil, and it's oil resistant. And this stuff, when it cures up, it's kind of rubbery, but it's hard. I mean, it holds strong as hell.
I know
Because it's for engines.
Yeah, you let me know that. I was having trouble with that Marshal and keeping that connector on top of there, sandwiching all those parts. I mean,
Yeah.
epoxy just broke. I mean, as soon as you look
Yeah,
at
this
it,
stuff doesn't break. You'll break your part probably, but you can pry it off and you can get it cleaned completely, which is cool because it's a gasket maker and you have to be able to do that with an engine. But on the replicas, that's what I use to do these parts on the replicas, and they're not coming off, man. Like yours is done that way. The one I did for you is done that way.
I know. And you know what? A couple of times I put it on the stand wrong and it fell over and nothing fell off. I was like, oh, great, you know.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty tough.
Look, these are fiddly because they're magnetized, and you know it sits on a shelf, so I don't really care too much. I just look at it.
Yeah. I was going to grab this piece too when we were looking at it. You know, I wish everyone would get to see some of these real things, like get to see the Mauser or get to see a real Webley in person to actually know the details, actually see the details and touch them. But, you know, another really cool piece that was machined for this is the trigger guard.
Yeah. Well, the thing that people don't realize on it is that it's so organic. Like it's very rounded and smooth and comfortable to touch. And so is the trigger. That's another thing I wanted to compliment. Your trigger is perfect like the original one.
Yep.
But those back in the day,
look at the contours. Yeah.
They took a lot of time to make those very comfortable for your finger.
Yep.
Nowadays, triggers are just like blocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
it's very ergonomic. And you know what? I know the amount of operations and flips to get all of these angles, and a lot of these radiuses, you know, they're not just one radius tool you can just zip around it in like you would think and do it. They're different and they blend into another radius, which how the hell did they do that with no CNC?
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought I'd love to go back there and see that because I got a feeling there was a lot of hand filing, a lot of hand sanding.
This contour here.
Yep. Yeah, this thing's about a 6 or 7, I can't remember, 6 or 7 operation part, you know, and you've got these weird flowing contours. You know, this thing is not straight.
Heck,
I hope you can see that.
Even the fact that the barrel is tapered.
Yeah.
You know,
yep. There's no straight. It's all.
I mean, they had to have done it for practical reason, maybe to save some weight, you know, get rid of as much material as possible to save some weight because these things were heavy.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's impressive machining. You know, there may be some guys out there saying, oh, blah, blah, big deal. But I tell you what, if you're a machinist, you go grab one of these parts, you start programming, you'll find out real quick. You know, there's a lot goes into this. I mean, you know, even on the breech block, God, I hope this shows up. I want a higher res camera.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there. Can you see it there? The Knurling, this right here.
Yeah.
that right there is in a fixture. I have to mount that in a fixture in the 4th axis like this, and it literally, the tool has to do this as the part turns.
As it turns, yeah.
You know, and I'm sitting there, how did they do that? I mean, did they have an indexer and a guy sit there and do them one at a time? You know, I mean, it's crazy stuff, you know.
All this stuff is real ergonomic. I think people really miss the point and how difficult this is to make. So when you have the stock on there, your hand, it just look how it flows with your wrist.
Yeah,
it's just the
they
design
lost
is
that to some extent. I think that a lot of the modern firearms have kind of gone that 45 route, and they lost what Mauser and a lot of these companies that were doing back then, especially with the Luger. You know, it's just, you know, it's like you point your finger. That is too. They had the right angles on stuff for them to flow.
just the contours. I mean, it may not fit every hand well, but for my hand, it's perfectly comfortable. It just fills it. You don't have
and that thing's beefy. I've never shot a Webley, but you know, I know the shells are pretty long. So, you know, and I think there were several different rounds. They probably had gas rounds and flares, things like that. But, you know, I imagine this thing kicked hard. So they would have to have a good grip on it. And obviously the stock and everything's really solid.
Which you haven't talked about how it is to make the stock. I mean, I'm sure that this is not.
You know, there's now, if you go to the blog on at Blaster Factory, you can see me machining that thing. I don't know if I can find a quick picture of that or not. I'll try here. But literally, while that's setting in a fixture, you know, it's a block of walnut, and the tool is profile machining the entire thing. There's nothing flat on it. There again, you know, the whole thing is a contour.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they had those rows of those machines that were following the form, and they were, you know, they'd follow the form on a giant one to make, you know, it scaled down to the small ones. But still, somebody had to figure that out and make the first one, you know, because look at the front of that. I don't have one in front of me here, but well, I've got a real one here. But I love that contour right there.
Yeah.
You can see that in the light.
It fits your palm.
Yes. I mean, it's just, you know, you can hold this thing like this, carrying it, and this part of your hand just locks into that really nice.
Even though it's a lot of sanding to get it nice, this is my favorite part of the build because it smells good when you start to do.
Yeah, you know, I take one of my CNC machines and I have to block off all the coolant ports, get it dried out, and literally when we machine that, the vacuums are going to suck up the dust, and the whole place smells like that for, you know, 3-4 weeks. It is really good.
Yeah.
Different, definitely different than what you normally do. So.
Yeah, it smells good. Walnut smells good, especially when you machine it, because it starts to heat it up.
Well, you know, the thing is, I'm machining it with really sharp tools really fast. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I have actually stopped things to look at it like I would on a wood part. I mean, like on a metal part. And let me tell you, if one of those tools sits on that wood for very long, it gets real hot and you start seeing smoke.
Yep.
And right then you got to stop, because it will catch on fire.
But what's cool is it, and I know this just from what machining the Mauser walnut grips, is it machines very cleanly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it surprised me, you know, I wouldn't have even thought I could do that a couple of years ago, because I'd never machined wood. You know, it's always been metal. And I know, you know, I know it's done. I mean, when I talked to Haas about it, you know, I said, is this going to hurt my machine? I mean, all this dust. And like, well, there's Gibson and all these other guitar companies, you know, they all do that stuff too, you know. So yeah. I said, well, that makes sense. He said, it's a lot easier on everything than getting metal in it. So the cleanup, you know, takes a couple hours washing the machine down, getting all that junk out of it, but it's not that bad.
Yeah. Mahogany machines pretty nicely too.
Well, you know, what I was going to say too, I got sidetracked. The Mauser, You know, when I first did the steel Mauser, I had no what you cannot find those damn grips, you know, with the lines on it. And I ended up sending some off and having that royal wood plastic stuff like they make real handgun grips with to put on the basic one, which those are almost phased out. I'm not going to do those anymore. And you'll see on even on my aluminum Mausers, they come with the walnut grips now. It won't be long that the steel one will have those stock with them too. But that's where I learned how to machine the wood. And I was shocked at how well that did. You know, the detail, you know, those little bitty lines, you know, that are on that. I can't believe they come out that good. I mean, I never break one. They always look good.
Yeah.
So I mean, and they're a lot more detailed than the stock is. The stock's just bigger.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the Return of the Jedi one.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can pull up some photos. I don't have photos of it on screen because it's barely on screen. I mean, I guess we could. It's just not used much.
No, it gets used when Luke chops it in half.
But I got some pictures that some people may not have seen. So let's check it out. This is going to go on my Patreon and your YouTube. So let's see.
Nice.
So these are one of the hero props, and they had a whole bunch of them. So I have some pretty good pictures of this prop, and this is why I'm able to make the paint on this one pretty close.
Looks like there's layers of it flaked off and scraped.
And I know some other people may have these, but I paid for some too. So
yeah,
this is a different one. It's got a different tip.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the tip you want me to make too, to have that variant.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary because you don't see it on screen. You see the other one, the open one. Yeah, but there's lots of variations of this blaster. There's ones that were cut down. The barrel was cut down for the when you seen where it gets exploded in half. And
Hey, go back to those Greeblies. Those what is it? Is it the Phantom model Greeblies that are on the side?
oh, the F4 missile pod things. I don't know if there's
I actually was able to find that vintage model kit too, amazingly, because I was able to reproduce those.
I got one of the boxes. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe not in the background.
There you go. You see that one, and then the other side has the
part broken off.
Yep. Well, no, I think it's not broken off. I think it's actually in the model kit. I think these just go together or like that.
Here's the kit.
Yeah, there you go.
It comes from.
Yep. Holds on one of the gas tank.
I don't know if this kit still has it. I think I've already harvested them, but
what'd that kit cost you? Where'd you find it?
eBay, I don't remember, probably about 50, 60 bucks, something like that.
Well, they're not 50 or 60 bucks now, I can tell you that.
And I think there's some other parts from this kit on other stuff, but I don't remember what. The bomb halves are on the Return of the Jedi Jabba Palace blaster. But other than that, I don't recall what else is there. So Return of the Jedi got maybe I don't know if they use this for anything in Empire Strikes Back, but I think one of the missiles are used on something too.
Oh, you know what? Isn't that on the oh boy, what is that? That's not the one of the Greedo killer or something? Has that missile on it?
Maybe I don't remember. Hold
on. Or the DH-17. Does it have it?
Maybe.
Yeah, see, because it is. It's out of that same kit. But yeah, is these are pretty detailed too. It's hard to see in here on the screen here, but those are really nice. See the other one here.
Well,
Oh, by the way, going back to the SB, if you're buying vintage models, be on the lookout for that guy right there or something like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
nobody knows what that is yet.
Yep.
Here's the bomb half from that kit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. You can see it. Yeah.
But
just keep your eyes open. You never know when you'll run across something in an antique store or yard sale.
this is your kit. And man, you know what? I love this. I think I like this more than the Return the Empire Strikes Back one for some reason, just because it's more practical. The Molex connector things and the Greeblies here on the side, they're just so in the way, and this
Ready
just
to
feels
fall
like
off. Yeah.
more thought out to me.
I like Chris Patrick. I actually got he had a Master's replica one that I got to mess around with, so to get see how all the T-track went and the little side fins that are on it.
Oh yeah.
Get mine out here. Yeah, these guys right here, you might be able to see them. They're not painted black yet. That are on there.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, they do press in, and they don't press in easy. So you need
once they're in, they're not coming out.
Well, I hate when stuff falls off. It, a lot of times I'm not able to put set screws in things, and because the props don't have them, they can't show. But I did get that pretty tight on that, so they go in a slot. Yeah. I actually put them in a vise, like one of my Kurt vices, and I can actually squeeze them in.
That's what I do. Mine barely fits in the vise, and I can squeeze them in.
Yep. Or either if you have an arbor press, which most people probably aren't going to have that.
I would say the most challenging part of this build for anybody who's going to tackle this is the damn T-track.
Yeah.
Because you have to measure them, and they just have to fit, and you have to get the placement right, and then you have to cut these in half, and then you have to have another half up here, and you have the two little fiddly pieces here. For whatever reason, each one of the props had this empty space, and I don't know why.
I think you run out of T-track. Might have been all the drops and pieces from all the other stuff,
Maybe, but they did it on at least 2 or 3 of them.
Oh, then he's just trying to be random. Or there was something he intended to put something on there,
I don't know, man. It's a funky detail, but it makes it a pain in the butt instead of just having to cut them equally and just put them on there.
Yeah, and be done with it.
And then you have the scope mount block in between that you have to cut as well.
Yeah.
Like the one I did yesterday. This one just hasn't. This one's just gray right now. It hasn't had any final paint put on it, but this is the one I did yesterday. Oh my God. So right now it looks pretty.
New issue. Trying to find a picture. Something else I was going to show you too on the hammer on both of these. I'm trying to, I know it's on the blog and the build site, the fixturing for the hammer knurling. I can't find it on here right now, but look at that. You see that knurling?
Oh yeah, that knurl. Yeah.
It wraps around the contour. Holy crap. What a pain in the butt.
I wonder if they did that by hand.
You know what? I would say somebody did, because what I had to do, you see that this thing is setting, I have to set it in a fixture like this. I'll turn it toward you. I have to set it in a fixture like this, and it turns like this, so that the knurling tool can go back and forth with it.
Right.
I mean, it's nuts, weird, awkward angles, but obviously doing that by hand looks hard too. Good Lord. you ever tried to do that on one of the others? Because I know there's been some 3D and some other people tried to do these in aluminum too. They didn't put that detail in, but that was tricky. That was really tricky. But that detail had to be there. That's like, I
Yeah,
hated to put this hammer out without putting that on there.
it's necessary.
Yeah. Oh, also, and the engravings. Can you still, after you paint it, can you still see the engravings on the side that I put on there?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the
you
real
can.
one. Because I know you're not going to be able to see this probably on this in the camera. Oh, you can kind of, but there's on the side of it here. It's got the London #1, Mark 1, all that date and stuff on the side of it. And with all those engravings, I try to put on there too. So.
Yeah, they're there, which is really cool. That's a small detail, but it adds quite a bit of, quite a bit to it. Just the little things like the proof marks and all that stuff. That's just something that adds to it that you can't get anyplace else.
Yeah, and there's still, I didn't put all the proof marks on there. I do leave a few of the intricate hidden details for guys like you that are actually building the products and doing commission builds that know about that stuff. Most people are not going to know about those things.
Yeah. You can't see it anywhere other than when you're looking at it. So,
well, I mean, that's usually the people that are buying this level of prop, it's sitting there for them to enjoy it, and they'll actually learn about the details. I mean, somebody who's trying to buy, something 3D printed or, like that, they don't care about detail anyway. So why bother,
Yeah. Well, but yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I love the Return of the Jedi one. I like the ESB one too.
I think that probably the most challenging build is probably the Return of the Jedi one. It's got a lot more parts to it.
Yeah, the T-track alone make it just a pain. The Empire Strikes Back one, to do an aluminum kit, they're both a lot of work for paint. Yeah. Because you can't blue it. You can aluminum black it, but like the Empire Strikes Back one, but I don't recommend anybody to do that. It's aluminum black is very toxic and caustic for one, and you don't want to handle that a lot. Plus, it doesn't look like steel. You can get aluminum black to look blued, but it doesn't last. And then that's not how the prop looked. The prop looked like a rusty patina steel. So,
but yeah, if you go back and look at the pictures, the thing looked like it had 100 coats of paint on it.
Yeah,
that's a painted prop. That wasn't raw, down to the steel. I think like the ESB, right?
No, the paint, the Return of the Jedi was completely painted.
Yeah.
The Empire Strikes Back one, you can totally see it's steel right here. The one that was on set, on screen, you can see that steel, like rusty brown, gray patina right there. They didn't paint that.
It's weird. I guess I've always laughed and joked about, in the real world here, you keep your guns or your firearms super cleaned and super maintained. It seems like in the Star Wars universe, they're all dirty and tore up.
They're just used. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting, But yeah, so I think if anybody's doing these builds, paint it to make it look like rusty steel, not like orange rust, like a brownish. Because they're not rusty like it was rusting out. It was just that the blue wore off and it's got that handled look.
Well, I don't think I've seen anybody with a mint Webley. I think those things had war service at least 2 world wars, and then they ended up in police.
Yeah, I've had
all over the world. They even made it over to the U.S.
I've had some people send me some with original bluing, They still don't. They don't look like they're not museum pieces, but they're in pretty good shape. But still, they show 100 years of life.
Yeah. Somebody had mentioned, and I've looked for it too, that one of these ended up in an old TV series called Adam 12, which was, basically an early 60s cop show.
Yeah.
And it was they used it as a tear gas gun, a Webley. So I'd love to see that. So they actually made it into, they continued using them 100 years from then. So
yeah, I remember that show. I don't remember watching it a lot, but I remember it.
yeah, well, I'm dating myself here. So, so what have we missed? I feel like we missed talking about something about this. Do the props have these? You see that
the Empire Strikes Back one does,
Okay.
but not the Return of the Jedi didn't. Neither one of them, because they were cast.
Gotcha. So this, I do include these with the rings and the little eyelets, and there's also one that swivels that's on the trigger frame too.
Yeah.
You'll see this. And if you install it correctly and put the pin in correctly, the thing will still swivel too. So
yeah, except for the back one, the one in the wood doesn't swivel.
no, it's a wood screw. That's you basically need to screw it in, and I'd probably put a little glue on it. Do they have straps? Do people put straps on those?
The Empire one does.
Okay.
Here, there's a photo of it.
Yeah, because I think I think somebody had said they made some straps for them. Yeah, it does. And that's something I don't offer. I mean, there's probably some leather guys out there probably making those.
Manny from Potomac Props. Here's the strap. You can see it here.
Yeah.
Manny from Potomac Props, or Potomac, or however you say it. He makes it. He makes a strap.
Yeah, because that's something I don't offer. I think somebody that was making some of the holsters for Han Solo, I can't remember which one of them. I think he makes one too. I forgot to look him up, but I'm sure you guys probably could dig around and find that if you look.
Yeah, I have one of Manny's, because I know some people have had the real ones, but I've never seen.
Do you know what it is? Like it's a real one off of the Webley that come with it?
Yeah, the real one came from a Webley.
I don't think I've ever seen one that did.
I saw someone post one on the RPF a long time ago. I don't remember, or on the dented helmet, something.
Yeah.
Supposedly this is a copy of one.
I might run across one of those.
This is a pretty good one. It's made well. He's got the cuts and everything, and he's got the brass screw. My Webley didn't have a lanyard ring in the back. Just the ring itself. It had the ball joint, but not the ring. So I took this from a Mauser.
Yeah.
But it did have the front one.
I bet that's fun putting that
FedEx is coming. Did you send me something?
There's always something headed your way. So.
that may be a box from you.
Something I forgot to send you probably. So yeah. Well, Scott, have we covered this thing? I mean,
I think so. Oh, the scope. We haven't talked about the scope.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, you know what? And there's something else where did I put the scope? Here a second ago. You pointed out, and I've got to go back and I'm going to update my Return of the Jedi scope, because that's the part of the eyepiece.
Yeah,
right?
that's the front of this right here.
Yeah. And I've made one on there, and it's close. It's real close, especially for not having this back when I did it. But yeah, you'll see that. I'll do a build bid on that here in the next few weeks.
Yeah,
with the eyepiece and the slotted screw that goes in that. But yeah, this is I think this is the scope that I used and scanned and made the replica that you.
Which scope is that? What is it?
This one's an ASI.
Okay. They made a bunch that are almost all identical.
There's another, I've got another brand one here too. Can't remember the name of it. Oh no, this ain't it. This is funny because a couple of years ago, I'm always looking, I try to buy up this stuff as I see it. Somebody put this in one of the boxes that the real scope come in. This
Yeah.
is a Master Replica scope.
Oh,
And I got ripped off. I bought it on eBay, and but golly, these guys, this is a solid piece of steel. This thing, I wish you could. I mean, this thing's like a boat anchor. So when they made that replica, I mean, I don't own one of those, but God, this thing, I bet this thing weighs 5 pounds.
I have one. I got the tiny one. I got the tiny little Return of the Jedi one.
Nice.
But it's really cool. It's super cool for being so small. It's very detailed.
I don't have enough time to do everything I'm doing now, but I wish I could stop and make miniature metal versions of these little kits that move like the Mauser and that.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool. That's plastic, right?
I think parts of it are metal. This is metal. The T-Track are even rubberized.
Wow.
I mean, these are probably the coolest things Master Replica made, and they're probably the thing that nobody gives a crap about, but the little Han Solo blaster, it's not accurate, but it's cool.
Definitely.
It's metal, it's weighty.
Yeah.
They made some cool shit. Like, look at this. Darth Maul.
Oh yeah.
And then they have the cutaway version, and it's heavy. It's heavy.
That's neat.
With the crystal on the end. I mean, they made some cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, they looking at the Return of the Jedi EE-3, they actually did a decent job copying that one. Typically they miss it a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, those photos are usually, I think, are from their sessions, but they had access to it.
Yeah,
they had to sterilize it a bit, for production, but
yeah,
their Obi-Wan, the tiny little Obi-Wan, is really cool too.
You know what? That's one of the next shows we need to do is you don't have those parts, do you? The real parts? Do you still have that stuff anymore?
I have all the parts for an Obi-Wan. I don't have loose parts anymore. I sold all my extra loose stuff, but I still have a full saber.
Okay. Well, see, when you come and visited a couple years ago, I've got all the parts,
Yeah.
I ought to sit down one day and show how all that stuff goes together. Cause you talk about, finding a unicorn, every part on that saber is like a miracle to find it. So you're going to spend, 20 grand on, some of those parts are $5,000 and $7,000 a piece for each of the parts. So that would be a really cool thing to do next too.
Yeah.
Back to the scope, the replica, is pretty cool. And the hardest part of the scope was easy to machine. Did you notice the scope clamps?
The feet, yeah, those are just like the real ones, man.
Yeah, I actually took those off of 2 sets of scopes like this and sent those because there's a left and a right. They're not the same. They're reverses.
Yeah.
And I've got a metal stamping place that's over in Israel that actually stamped this part out, and you literally can replace the real one with that. You can't tell the difference.
No.
Like everything that I try to do on all these blaster builds is copy the screws and the heads of the screws. They're all unique. None of this crap's going to be at Lowe's. You're not going to find it. These old cheese head screws and weird lengths and things.
Yeah.
But that was the hardest part. The scope was done. That was tricky.
Yeah. And the scope, there's a whole thread on just the scope on the dented helmet. I mean, the guy who authors that thread went to extensive forensic investigation to figure out which scopes it could be.
Yeah.
and it's narrowed down to a couple, but every once in a while, a new option pops up on eBay or somebody finds a new one because this general scope was made by a bunch of different people.
But they're Japanese, right? These are Japanese scopes.
Yes.
Because I tell you, one thing they're very good at doing is that one company may be making these for five or six different companies and putting their names on them because they're literally, the two I got, they're identical. They're different brands, but they're identical.
They had very small variations, like when they were molding them, or the different. Some of them had plastic, and some of them were metal.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's surmised that the Hunter or Milbro is the ones that were actually used.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a Hunter, and I got lucky on this one on eBay years and years ago when I first found that information out. I searched and I found it in the UK for like $10.
Yep.
Plus shipping. I think shipping was more than the scope itself. And now that a bunch of people know what it is, they try and sell these for like $500.
They're going to cost you $400 or $500 now because this is on the Chewy blaster, the bowcaster, right?
It's a little different, but I'm not a Chewy blaster.
Not either, but
I'm not very knowledgeable.
I'm going to have to get there because I'm actually going to be making stocks for that because what is that Horton
the crossbow. It's either a Safari or a Magnum or something like that.
I didn't want prepared to talk about that today, but nobody makes them, and I'm going to try to put it on a rotary spindle on a router table out of a solid block of wood and try to turn it and actually cut it out and get all the profiles in it so that it'd be somewhat inexpensive and doing the bow part in the front. I've actually got there's a guy locally here that builds a lot of those, and he's run out of parts. You cannot find anything for that, and there's a lot of people out there building those. So that's one of my next projects after the Leia.
After Leia,
everybody. After Leia.
Yeah, the Chewy one I always discounted because it's just so big. I was just like, it's huge.
I didn't think, there again, I'm an Empire guy, so all I think about is E11s and all that stuff that goes on with that. But the Chewy following is huge, and those bowcasters. Go look at anybody that makes anything that looks like it, and they put it on, eBay or one of the other sites. It's gone. It's just gone instantly. He's got a huge following.
Yeah, he does.
People love that. Love Chewy. So, the other thing I'm trying to think of here. I feel like I'm missing something, but we got the scope and the clamps, and we've gone over all the greeblies, right?
Except for the Molex, but those are found, so you can just buy those nowadays.
The Molex connectors, the electrical supply sell those.
And to make them black, I just use RIT dye. I boil them in RIT dye, and boom, they're black. Then you don't have to paint them, and it doesn't chip off.
Yeah, they don't take paint very well.
No.
I've got plenty of those on the site. You can buy them with or without the pinholes. They're cheap. Those
are they made out of, what are they made out of? Nylon?
Yeah.
That's why they don't take paint. They just
or high density polyethylene or something. All of that stuff doesn't like paint. So it'd be a good idea. Just you stop at a where do you find RIT dye? Usually fabric store,
Walmart,
Hobby Lobby,
Walmart, Target.
Hot water, boil it, drop them in there. Yeah, they're done. Don't spill it anywhere.
Don't use a pot that you're going to cook with, for God's sake.
Don't spill it on the countertop. Don't spill it on the floor.
It dyes your stuff permanently.
It will be permanent. So, well, Scott, man, I can't think of anything else to share with anybody. I hope we haven't missed something on this. It's such a large build. It's such an important build. To the trilogy there too.
Yeah, I don't think so. The Boba Fett's pretty straightforward. You stick an MPP in it, you stick the scope
Yeah.
stuff on
Oh,
there.
you know what? I did mention this, and I wanted to say something again, about screws. Replicas lose it in the screws, and I've seen it for years and things. Even Masters Replica didn't do a very good job at this. They did a good job in a lot of things, but they'll skip the getting the real, type of screws. And I've always been a big advocate, even from, if you've got an M19 or M38, they all have these beautiful, rare, one of a kind, just goes on this item. And the Webley is chock full of them. There's all kinds of great, unique fasteners on there. The screws that hold the stock on, the bushings on the other side, the pivot point, this guy right here, where the pivot point is they call it a sex bolt, and it has a really unique screw on the other side. The screw that holds the grip on, none of this stuff you can find. This stuff's dated. They made these screws just for this item back in the day. And what I did when I took this apart to scan it, the screws, they went to a screw machine company, and I had them copied. So these things will actually, well, I say this will go in most of them. I don't know whether the screws are just boogered up on my old ones, but one of them they weren't real good in. The other one, I think they've been taken apart too many times. They're a little loose, but you can actually replace them if you're missing them on your real Webley too. So that's just another little fine detail that sometimes I think it gets overlooked when you're building props is finding the right fasteners for stuff, the real stuff. So,
Yeah.
And there's at least 7 or 8 different things for it. So there's a couple of the there's one that's really important too that people tend to put in the wrong place, and that one
holds the lock in.
That's right.
Yeah.
This one, I hope you can see this. Let me grab it, because I did want to say something about it so that people wouldn't get this one wrong. This one,
it goes right there.
let's see if you can see this here. Get it in the light.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a dog screw, and if you see on the very tip of it, there's no threads. Okay.
Yeah.
Because what it does, it goes in this slot right here.
It lets it slide up and down.
Yeah, and it'll go up and down in there. So you don't want to, when you're putting it in, goes in right here. And the head of it, you can see the head is made to fit this hole.
Yep.
And disappear. But when you screw this in there, that is what keeps this from coming back off.
Yep.
There's a spring up in here in that hole, and that slides onto this little slot here, and then you screw that down, and that way this is spring loaded.
Yep.
And I always tell people this thing's not made out of steel, and you can't over tighten stuff. If you over tighten this thing won't move, and you won't have this thing functioning where it'll open and close correctly. So
yeah, and the real one is very hard to push down. At least mine is. I have to use 2 thumbs.
Here's the thing. This thing, I don't have the tolerances like they do on the real one. That real one, man, it is tight fitting. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. There's no slop in it.
It can't be, because it's got to take that pressure.
It is a real firearm, and it is serious. I didn't do that on this, because on the replica, because I want you to be able to assemble it.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I've had these things apart probably more than anybody would ever want to. They are freaking hard to get back together. They're tough.
I believe it.
So I want things, to be able to have a little bit of, so you don't have to fight them and, ram stuff down and, so kind of drop together. And like always, I always keep stressing this in every video. If it don't fit or screw's not going in, stop. Don't force it. because you will strip it or you'll get it stuck in there. Then you've got a real problem. So
Yeah, stuck sucks.
it does. And once you boogered up a screw and you've got it about halfway in there and you strip the head off and, then you're calls, oh, I got cross threaded, So, well, first things first, I have extra parts and I'm going to teach you how to use a tap, so that's other videos though, where I've actually shown that.
Yeah.
That way you don't screw stuff up.
I had it on this Return of Jedi that I'm building.
Yeah.
I put a screw in and I was like, oh, okay, I need to take that back out so I can, it was for the mounts on top because I have to drill and tap those holes.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to change that. I should have been doing that for the builders, but I've got a couple. Everybody places them just a little bit differently, so I wasn't real confident about going ahead and pre-mounting those, but I may start doing that.
Yeah,
but
well,
you'll strip that real easy because you've got to go into a pretty thick piece of metal.
Well, what happened is I tightened it down and I was like, oh, I need to take it off so I can put the T-track on or something. And then when I tried to I guess I put it too tight. And when I tried to get it off, the Allen hole stripped. Yeah. I'm like, ah, dang it. So I tried one of those screw extractor kits. That didn't work. I ended up having to Dremel a slot in it and just using a screwdriver to take it out.
That's how you do it. Yeah. Those extractor kits work real well on bigger screws. When you've got small, like 632, 440, 256 screws, you forget it. They're done. They're broke off and you bended it. So, and you got to watch too when you, especially if the screw's going through a part, like a through hole, and then tap into the lower part, you sandwich that, it actually gets in a bind.
Yeah.
So that makes it sometimes hard to get stuff out like that. But there's no reason to over tighten stuff. Get it snug, but there's a limit to it. You over tighten stuff, you will break it. I mean, you'll do that on any machine.
Yeah. Well, that's how it goes. But anyway, yeah.
Well, if you got questions and on the builds, I mean, me and Scott are both actively on Facebook, and you can find us. So, definitely click like on my YouTube and go to his patron site and follow us on Facebook and RPF and all that. If you got questions, all you got to do is ask. So,
pretty much. Yeah.
Yep. Well, you know what, Scott? I think we've completed another journey here. So
we went probably deeper down the details than most people care about, but
well, some people have never seen this stuff before.
Yeah.
And this was a huge learning curve for me. Finding the information and pulling it together from 9 different sites and 4 or 5 different people. And actually finding these Webleys, it was a lot of work. I mean, I think I spent, what is it? I mean, this was over a year project. I mean, at least, from the start going, hey, I pulled the trigger on it and getting it machined and, the first one's rolled out. I mean, these things take a while. I don't do these in a few weeks. These things take a lot of planning and a lot of people smarter than me and about the props to do them. And there again, Scott, you were one of the you and Art and a couple other guys were very important, to actually finding the information, and I appreciate it. So
yeah, well, not to mention your considerable investment in making these things. I think a lot of people forget that
yeah.
They gripe and complain about what things cost. You're like, dude, you can't make this for less money than this. In fact,
yeah.
I would argue that if you had a run, like a typical RPF or Facebook run of something, it would cost 2 or 3 times as much.
I don't know somebody at some point, I don't know, there's 1 or 2 people have made, and I've got one somewhere, and I'm not going to mention whose it is because I'm never going to down somebody's work because it was hard. This is a hard project, but that thing was $1,500 or $1,600 for doing something that I've done. That what's this thing on my site, $700 or $800? So I probably spent time you fix your engineer and do the prototypes on something, I can get $150,000 to $200,000, into just being able to make some of these things. There's a considerable amount of upfront cost and time involved in doing them. And, like I always say, I'm too poor to buy cheap. I don't like cheap stuff. I'm always going to try to make the best that I can according to, the ability and the stuff that I have available to me.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people doing cheap shit out there. I don't need to compete with them. I want to do stuff that's sitting on somebody's collector cabinet. I want when I'm dead in 20, 30 years or whatever. Well, wait a minute, I'm going to live longer than that. If 50 years or 100 years, I want people to go, there was some idiot called Field Marshal made all this cool stuff, man, and I want it to still be there because, 3D printed crap, it ain't. It's not going to be there that long. That thermoplastic, as soon as the sun comes up one day or the house is too hot, that crap's going to be gone. So I just, that's kind of my philosophy behind stuff. Do it the best you can. Buy good stuff.
Yeah.
Enough of that. Hey, I'm ranting and raving there. So.
All right. Well, I don't know what the next one will be, but I'm sure we'll talk about Leia soon.
Well, Leia is underway and is going good. The mold, since the last time we talked, scanning geometry for the molds for the grips. And there again, we were talking about some of the hardest things to do is to reproduce that guy right there. And Leia's grips, my God, they're more complex than this thing is. And I've got to have them molded in plastic. They've got metal inserts in each side of them, and they're machining a mold right now. I expect that to be done in the next 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully. Then a guy comes in, a specialist comes in and hand does all those little knurlings on them. I mean, it's crazy, but when that's done, hopefully I'm underway. We're still working on the geometry here for the metal parts. And I'm thinking still, we're into the January, February. So it's next year before that one, you're going to see that one actually ready to go out. But, it'll be worth it. I mean, that is an iconic blaster from, somebody that we all hold very dear, and I want to make sure that this is the best replica I've ever done. That's what I do with every one I do. I get better and better at the processes, and I'm going to keep pushing forward on that one because it's going to be neat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to do it in a way that is cost effective too. That pistol there's a lot of details on it. It looks so simple when you see it in a picture, but my God, it's just as detailed, it's just as complex, and there's a whole ton of parts to it. And I'm trying to do it where the slide and the trigger works again. There again, we'll get into that too, but the trigger mechanism, I always go back to how complex and how hard those are. They usually add $100 to $150 to every prop I ever do that I put them on there, but you guys want them, so that's why I put them in there. But there's a lot of engineering to it. So
I believe it.
God bless Texas
and South Carolina.
Yeah, well, we're not quite there yet, but God bless Texas. And man, Scott, thanks for spending the time today. My stupid phone won't quit ringing. I don't know how to turn the ringer off, but we definitely going to do this again. And I hope everybody out there finds this enjoyable. And if you got questions or suggestions or things you want to see us talk about in the future, I mean, that'd be cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hit us up,
Probably maybe one of these days we should do a live one where people can tune in and just ask stuff too.
I'd mentioned that because I hate computers as much as they control everything in our lives, and trying to learn how this Zoom meeting and pictures and all this stuff going on. Yes, that would be awesome. We ought to set that up where people could call in and do that. And John here says it's not that hard to do. So maybe that's the next thing we need to do. They ain't no telling what we'll get asked for that.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe it'll be like 2 people on there. Who knows?
Yeah, I doubt that. It'll be good. Well, Scott, man,
all right.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and
you too.
let's if you need anything on those 2 builds you're working on, and just hit me up, let me know.
Cool. Yeah, I gotta go check the front door, see whatever FedEx brought me. I'm pretty sure it's something from you.
Yeah, well, you know what, guys, he does post a lot of these pictures on these builds, and they are incredible. There are a lot of great builders out there, but Scott's one of the best. Yeah, so definitely stay with us. Y'all have a good day.
All right. See you then.
See you, buddy.